Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My apologies for being late. I was actually trying to do some other prep work. I got caught up in that. But hey, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Paul Turner from the discipleproject.net, and I have labeled this month Stream Timber because I've been streaming every Tuesday and Thursday from 11:30 to 12:30. Today I'm going to go from, I think, 12:15 to maybe 12:45 today. I just have one question that I'm going to be answering today. Now, listen, if you have other questions, your other youth ministry questions, you're welcome to ask them in the chat. Feel free to put them down there, and I will do my best to answer them. But I have this one question that I feel like I'm going to spend a little bit of time with, so we'll just we'll go from there. But I want to welcome everybody in. If you're brand new here to the channel, first of all, thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part. If you are not a subscriber to the channel yet, would welcome you in to be a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, of course, and of course the bell notification. That way you know when I go live. And so if you're from, well, everybody's from somewhere. I was going to say if you're from somewhere. But if you're from wherever you're from, let me know in the comments, in the chat, where you're from, where you're watching from, maybe what church you're at. Would love to hear from you. Today is brought to you by, I have this called My Youth Ministry Playbook. If you're looking for a playbook, not a planner, a playbook. Now this is going to have all your, I already have your calendars in there. You don't have to print off a whole bunch of calendars. Calendars are in there. You have over 20 articles in there about planning, about preparing, about how to get your year in order. You have all kinds of forms in there. There's youth ministry guides like the Youth Pastor Guide to Getting Things Done, the Youth Pastor Guide to Trips, the Youth Pastor Guide to an Epic Nerf Night, and each of these are like 10 or 15 pages of guides, which focus on those things that youth pastors tend to struggle with. And so I wanted to make these little guides for you. But also, like I said, there's tons of articles. There are forums. There's a social media planning form. There's a teaching form. There's just a ton of stuff in here. So if you're wanting to, listen, I don't know of any youth ministries I don't know any youth ministries that are unorganized that are also successful. So if you're looking to organize your youth ministry, if you're looking to get your youth ministry organized. If you're a brand new youth pastor, let me encourage you. This might be the resource for you because it's going to teach you things that I have learned in the past 35 years of working in youth ministry. I am also currently a youth pastor at a small rural church. And so I'm still in the game. It's not like I'm, sitting in some ivory tower looking down upon people saying, now let me tell you how this is done. No, this is all real-time stuff for me. So when I put articles in here, when I put in forms. These are things that I'm currently doing. I'm currently making them. In fact, I just put what did I just put in? Oh, I just put a how to get things done in there guide, which is all about working in systems, right? The body of Christ is the body of Christ, but you know what? A church is also a system. And in order to succeed in a system, that's what I break it down. How to get your ideas forward, how to be heard, how to be proactive, how to work in relationships with the people in your church so you can get things done. And it's all about working within that system. So if you are interested, there'll be links down below. And I think I'll drop a link right here in the chat, if that's okay with everybody. And that way you can have it right there as well. So be sure to go ahead and grab that if you are interested. Like I said, this is something I'm building over. There's already a ton of stuff in there. So if you want like all the initial stuff, I'm going to keep adding to it, but you're going to want to probably get for the price point, maybe get in on it now. I'll try to keep it. It is reasonable. I can tell you that. It is reasonable. So go ahead and grab it for yourself. Let's see here. Where is my link? Where's my link? Oh, there we go. That's why I have something in place of that. Let's see. Boom, boom. Hope everybody's doing well, by the way, for a Tuesday. Let's see. There we go. Why can't I find things when I need to find them? It's just I know where they are, but like, okay, it'll be in the, I'll find it. Don't worry about it. I'll get to it. I'll get it. It'll be down in the below in the chat. So, all right, it'll be in the comment. It'll be in the description. Okay. All right, let's carry on. Let's go on with today's question. I'm only going to answer one question today, because I find it to be the most interesting, to be honest with you. So today the question is going to be, I'll bring it up here. The question is going to be, what do you do when the disruptive child in your youth group is the pastor's kid? Okay, that's the question. What do you do when the disruptive child in your youth group is the pastor's kid? Now, I was thinking about this today. I was sitting in a doctor's office with my father-in-law, and I said, well, I'm going to write some notes on this, because I think you're going to say this is a negative, right? When I say this initially, you're going to say, well, Paul, why are you so negative? In these kinds of cases, for the most part, in general, the youth pastor always loses and the system always wins. I will break that down for you. Let me say it again. In these cases, based on my own experience, the system always wins, the youth pastor always loses. Now, I'll explain. Allow me to explain that, because I know at face value you say, Paul, that's very negative. That's not always true. Well, that's why I'm going to break it down for you. That's why I'm going to try to give you some insight, and hopefully break down, some thoughts for you that may be helpful to you. Because, by the way, let me know in the chat there, do you have somebody in your this could be the pastor's son, could be an elder's son, could be a deacon's son, could be an administrator's son, could be another staff person's son, whatever it may be. Okay. Leave me a chat in the comment there. In fact, I found the link, by the way. And the link is right here for the youth pastor, for the My Youth Ministry Playbook. And that also comes, by the way, with my Youth Meeting Playbook. The Youth Meeting Playbook has 52 planning sheets in it that will help you, and all about how to have the best youth meeting you could possibly have, right? That's what it's about. So, all right, so what do I mean by that then? Well, here's the part, and I'm going to look at I'll cheat a little bit and look at my notes. The issue you have is when you have a pastor, now a pastor's kid, you have to then, if it can work out, right? I'm not saying there is a lose factor though. There are best outcomes when you have that, right? You think, what's the best outcome? Well, the best outcome, if a child is disruptive in your class, in your group, for whatever reason, and they are the child of a staff member, one of the church staff members, the pastor's son, daughter, an elder's son, a deacon's son, daughter, whatever it may be. There are several factors that go into that as to whether or not you can win the day. So for youth pastors, I believe it's about, first of all, how old is the child? If you're getting that child, that if you're coming in and that child's 11, 12 years old, that's the best time to get them. If they're going to be an issue in the group, might be the best time to do it, because there's a lot of other things going on in that kid's life that you can point to and say, well, they're growing up, it's their adolescence, it's their hormones, it's all those things. The minute you suggest, by the way, to your pastor that your son or daughter is being disruptive. Okay, now, the best outcome is, in that case, is, well, the pastor hears you and says, hey, I'll talk to them about it. Right? But the problem is that when it's reoccurring, and it's a reoccurring issue, like I said, if they're 11, 12 years old, maybe 13 when they're coming into youth group, you can still win the day, I think. I think you can win that young man to yourself. He's open for development, or she's open for, to grow into that, figure things out, far more malleable to understand what youth group's about, expectations, all and all those things. They're all that. The issue is that as the student gets older, and you're coming in when they're 15, 16, man, that's probably the hardest time to get them, because they're not. If they're disruptive, they've already seen everything in the church. They have seen so much. They have experienced so much. They could be super callous. They could be super bitter. They could be super all those things. Now, I'm not saying that's in every case. This is, once again, this is not every case. I'm saying if they're disruptive at that age, then that's going to be an issue for the youth pastor, because where does the youth pastor then go? You are cautious about going to the parent, who is also your boss. And you have to tread lightly, because when they're younger, if they're 11, 12, 13, once again, the issues are there. They're growing up. It's adolescence. The mom and dad are experiencing a lot of those same issues at home, probably. The issue becomes when they're 16, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they become far more autonomous. They drive. They have, once again, if they've been in the youth group for those 3 or 4 years that you have not been in the youth group, then they have these relationships that are going on. They're in with certain groups within the youth group, and then those groups are going to side with the student, right? And so what is best? What's the best outcome? Well, the best outcome is that the parent listens to you, the pastor listens to you, and they say they'll handle it at the house. That's the best outcome. The worst outcome is that the child continues to be disruptive. You can't handle that. You're very cautionary as to how you address that within the youth meeting. If you call them out and embarrass them, they're going to go home and tell their parents that they got called out, and you embarrass them. So guess what? There will be a meeting the next morning with you and the pastor, you, the pastor, and a deacon, you, the pastor, and the board. Who knows? That's the worst case scenario. So in trying to tread carefully, first of all, of course, you'd want to pray, right? You want to be able to say, okay, Lord, what do I do about this? And you wish the Lord would just handle it, right? The Lord, just handle it. And you know what? Sometimes he does. But I also think if a child is disruptive, any child, pastor, son or not, I try to make sure that the students know, and I build a foundation by which that I'm going to measure the meeting, right, and the disruptiveness. So I occasionally have some of my students will talk, right, and we're in a series right now where a student is leading. So when the student is leading, I mentioned this on Sunday to my group. I said, hey guys, I need your help, right? This was a smaller group. It wasn't the whole group. It was my Sunday school class that I said, hey, I need your help. Guys, I noticed that, without mentioning any names, I said, look, and because it was several people, and in fact, the kids in the group said, yeah, that was me. Sorry. Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. I said, but guys, we only meet for 45 minutes, right? We have 15 minutes of worship upstairs with the rest of the church, and the rest of the time, at max, is 45 minutes. Normally, it's 30 to 35 minutes, usually. Sometimes we go a little bit over, depending on what's going on. But I said, hey, guys, listen, I need you guys to, when somebody's talking, can you help me wrangle everybody in? Because here's what I noticed. I noticed that there's a lot of people talking over each other. I also noticed that when there's quiet, somebody feels like they need to talk and fill that space with words, when probably not so much. I said, guys, when a student, and I said this, it goes for me too, but for the student, I said, guys, for the student that's in there, that's doing this, they have studied this week. They have prepared this week. The way you tell them that you love them and you're thankful for them is by listening to what they're saying. and you're offering them that respect. And that's how you're telling them, thank you for bringing the word, thank you for studying, thanks for being a part. So I think the first thing you have to do is you start with collectively trying to, if once again, you have to measure this, what the disruption is, all of those things. But in this case, I think you have to build a foundation of how do we conduct our meetings? What are the standards by which we have this meeting? Right? I hate to say rules, because I have an unspoken with my group, unspoken rules, or unwritten rules, I should say that maybe. They're not unspoken because I'll share them from time to time. Say, guys, this is not how we do things, right? I'll bring it up. I don't have stuff posted on the wall. I don't have those things, but I do have this agreement, this collaboration with students that when somebody's talking, this is how we do. Okay, this is how we do our meetings, and they were super open to it. And I find that I have no doubt that they're going to help me, and I'll announce it, by the way, on Wednesday again. But in doing so, I've already included some people that are going to help me with the situation. It's not just me, right? So we're going to get some help. Right? The youth pastor should get some help. Find your allies, be they adult volunteers or whether they're students who are going to help facilitate that. That's the other thing. Well, we'll get into that. So the first thing I'm going to say is this: build a foundation of how we do our meetings. What are the expectations? So you build this over time, right? And then you're going to try some other methods. You're going to say, okay, so I got students policing students to some degree, right? They're checking one another. They understand why it's a value for them to do that, why it's important, why it's a matter of respect towards their peers. Why is it a matter of respect towards you? Why is it a matter of respect towards God's word? You know, you're building the foundation of why listening is a part of what we do in here. It's not just so that, you know, the person gets heard, but so that you can hear, the student can hear what is being said, what is being taught, and allowing the Holy Spirit to be able to minister the way the Holy Spirit ministers. And if you're talking, you're not listening to what the Holy Spirit's telling you. Okay, you're listening to somebody else. So once again, I shared it on Sunday. I'll share it again on Wednesday, collectively, not calling anybody out. And then after that, if you still have a student who happens to be, this is any student, but if it also happens to be the pastor's kid, right? Then you want to say, look, maybe you have a volunteer who's in charge of that. Maybe you don't do, try to put somebody between myself and whatever that issue may be that I think is going to be a conflict of, not, I want to call it a conflict of interest, but I wouldn't necessarily describe it that way. It's a conflict in the sense that it's going to put me in a bad spot if I'm the only person that has to correct the pastor's son, the pastor's daughter, the deacon's son, the whoever, right? So when I do that, I want to make sure if I have a volunteer, then maybe I'm having a volunteer sit near where that disruption is going on, whoever it is. And then let them kind of say, hey guys, need to go ahead and quiet down, need to go ahead and chill out, relax, right? Let the volunteer do some of that and equip the volunteer to do that. Let them know what they should say, not say what is protocol, what is not protocol. Don't be ugly to kids, don't be those things. Just try to get it under control, right? So I would say that would be step 2. So step 1 is build a foundation of why we are the way we are. Why do we listen? Why do we do the things? The second thing is try to get somebody else to help handle those types of issues that are going to create a conflict if you get involved in it, right? But there may be a volunteer who doesn't mind that. And we kind of go from there. If then the student disrespects the volunteer, well, then we have another issue that we have to raise, right? We have to then say, okay, so now we have disruptiveness, and then we have just, we don't listen to, you know, the authorities that are in the room, the adults in the room. It's disrespectful towards them, right? Once again, we're building so that if in fact I have to go to a parent, any parent, if I have to go to my boss who has a kid in the youth group, then I have to make sure I document. Okay, On this meeting date, this happened. This was the disruption. On this date, this meeting happened. This was a disruption. These are the steps I took. You have to document your actions. You have to be able to document what was the problem? What did you do beforehand to mitigate the problem? And then how did you actually deal with the problem, right? Deal with the issue. And on this week, I talked with students to help me police the room. I talked with a volunteer to help me with this student. And then the last step might be a personal conversation with that student, whoever the student may be. But I would also do that with a volunteer present, right? And just saying, hey, man, girl, whoever it may be, right? And you want to have a proper volunteer. If it's a girl, you probably want to have a girl there. If it's a guy, have a guy there, that kind of thing, if you can. Do this, hey, buddy, I know you're struggling. Can you tell me why you're struggling? Why are we struggling in the meeting? What is it about this? Are you okay? Maybe that kid's not okay. Maybe they're acting out. Maybe they're going through issues. Maybe they feel like, they're going to get a pass anyway. Their mom or dad's not going to do anything about it. So once you have built this kind of foundation of where you're going, then maybe you say, okay, maybe it's time now. After I've handled it this time, I've documented. I've done this time, I've documented. I've done it this time, I've documented it. The next step is maybe not go to the parent or your pastor and say your child is doing this, because you immediately put a pastor or leadership in a defensive mode. The proper way you want to go and say, hey, is John doing okay? Is Tanya doing okay? Right? Are they okay? Are they going through some things? They may be going through some things. And the initial deal is that not necessarily that you want to, it's not just about stopping the bad behavior. It's about really getting to the reason why maybe this behavior is going on. And there's a way to do ministry through this, right? The whole goal is to minister to the student and minister to the family too, as well. Because the message is, if you come right out and say, hey, so-and-so is misbehaving, I need you to deal with it. As if a parent doesn't have a lot to do already. Now their kid can't behave. Their kid probably maybe can't behave at school. Their kid's not behaving at home. Their kid's not behaving out in the street. Now they're not behaving at the church. Where else can I take them? Where else? And there's this exasperation, I think, with parents who are dealing with kids who are disruptive. And sometimes, once again, a youth pastor can have a role if they have earned that role to help. And if your pastor, once again, this goes back to the question is, what if it's the pastor's kid or an administrator, whoever it may be? You really have to lay the foundation before you get there, because you're saying, look, and this all depends on your relationship with that pastor outside of the context of even your job. Are you friends with this pastor? Do you golf with this pastor? Are you on social levels with this pastor? Do you go out to eat with this pastor? Do you have permission to talk in this type of way with your pastor, right? That's why relationships are so important. That if you are building off of nothing and then you immediately come in, if you have not put any money in the bank, well, it's super hard to withdraw any money from a bank you've not put money into. So really, you're being proactive in the ways that you're trying to do, that you're trying to be helpful. You're trying to make sure that you are loving this disruptive student, whoever they may be. You're trying to grant them grace. You're trying to grant them, forgiveness. You're trying to help them. You're pouring into them, right? And once again, after the second or third time, maybe a conversation then is necessary with the parent. And once again, depending on your relationship with that parent, whether that parent goes to your church or doesn't go to your church, that the issue isn't, hey, I want you to stop your kid from doing dumb things and quit disrupting youth group because I'm trying to talk. Because then, if you do that, you've made it about you and that you are the offended. I am upset that your child will not listen to me when I am speaking. And I'm going to say that doesn't need to be the forefront. The forefront is, how can I help serve? How can I help serve your child? How can I help, your family? If I can, and sometimes you can't. It can be beyond your means, and then it becomes just okay. Well, what then? Once all the other things you've gone through, all the other things, what do we do? And how bad is whatever the offense may be? Right? We don't know what it is. Disruptive can be a lot of things. But if you go about it the wrong way, the youth pastor always loses because, and here's where I'll get to this, you lose in this sense is because either you're going to have to, almost, you're going to have to, like a lot of, I imagine a lot of teachers are this way too, because teachers have parents and they have administrators, right? That's the thing about being the middle person. You get it from both sides. You're going to get it from the students, you get it from the parents, you get it from the administration, and at the end of the day, somehow you're apologizing for something. And so in that sense, there's a losing factor of, well, I have to eat crow, or I have to, do something to make up for something else, that somehow them being disruptive is my problem, that I'm doing this somehow, and that you have to do something, right? Now, in that, if you count losing as you have to do something, right? If you have to, if it's not optimum for you, if it causes you to humble yourself in some way, I would say this, that yes, you are losing in a certain way, because now you have, let's say the kid in your group gets away with it. Your kid's allowed to be disruptive. The issue is not handled, or whatever it may be. And then you still have to deal with it. So you have to then humble yourself at some point. And in that sense, from a completely outside perspective, yeah, that's a loss, because the issue is not resolved. You're not back to having great meetings. You're not being, the issues are not resolved. Now the issue is out there, and now their friends are like, whatever. And the pastor's like looking at you like, why are you picking on my son or daughter? Or the parents saying, why are you doing this? So what can you do? Once again, from the outside, yeah, it's a thing. But, in the end, I don't know if it's losing in the sense of that way, because listen, this is about your walk with Christ as well. As a youth pastor, you say, listen, maybe is everything humbling? Yeah, it's all humbling. Ministry is all humbling, because there's there's things you have to do in ministry. There's things you have to do in life that if you fight against it, if you're just going to fight out of pride or out of those things, then really that's really the losing thing. You lose by fighting, because what are you going to gain? What do you actually gain from it? Now, there's some cases, yeah, you need to go ahead and fight certain things, that type of thing. But in the end, if it's over whether or not a child is behaving or not, you may have to humble yourself and say, okay, all right, I'll have to deal with that parent. I'll have to deal with this with my pastor. I'll have to deal with those things. And in the end, you have to go just talk to the Lord about it and say, okay, Lord, I don't feel like I've won. But, in fact, I don't feel like I've won at all. I don't feel like there's no winning here. But Lord, I have to come to you. And if it does anything, it causes us to say, Lord, I can't do this. So if there is a win, if the winning is in the humility, when it causes us to have the difficult conversation, or look at the way we're doing things, or the way our meeting is structured, or the fact that we didn't build in the foundation, or we didn't have 2 or 3 steps involved. Sometimes the youth pastor brings it on themselves because they did not structure the meeting right to where kids got out of. There was also a permissiveness that was created that causes it. So, yeah, so there's always, to me, you have to always say, if you take the position that everything's my fault, then you're much better for it, because you know what? You're right. That was me. That was all me. Now, there are times when you have to say, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't my fault, but yeah, it was my fault. I could have handled things better. I could have done things better. There's always something we can do more. So if you have a disruptive kid in your group, and they happen to be a part of the leadership of your church, a family in your church that is in leadership, of course, tread carefully. Of course, Don't be reactionary. Build a foundation. Build a foundation, right? Then document, right? Take next steps. Get allies to help you with the behavior. Students, volunteers. And if you need to, create a code of conduct if that needs to be, and let parents know what that code of conduct is. Not for the purposes of protecting yourself, although it might, but for the purposes of students and parents understanding that if something were to happen in the future, that we know already then that this behavior is not okay, then we've already baked it into the structure. We've already baked it into the system. And then you have to look at it from a different way. So I would encourage you that if you have your pastor's son, if you have a staff member's son, whatever it is in your group, be sure to build steps in. Be sure that you're documenting. Be sure that you're having allies help you. Be sure you're doing all the right things the right way for the best possible outcome. It may not go your way, but it might, right? That's the best outcome, is that everybody agrees. But most of all, the thing is that you have done your very best as a youth pastor to where your goal was not to stop a behavior. Your goal, although you want to, but you really want to say, look, I really want to do ministry. I really want to help, because you never know what your pastor's going through, the family's going through. They're dealing with some issues. They're doing those things. Be sure you come with grace. And be sure you come with humility. And be sure you come with a plan. And make sure if you do a code of conduct, you have that code of conduct approved. All the things. Okay? But I think that's the question I wanted to handle today, because I've seen several of those questions over the years. And it's a difficult situation, and one that, yes, I've been in. And, from my memory, I don't remember, working tragically or anything like that, or the outcomes. Trust me, I think I would remember, oh no, now I just thought of something, but that didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. But once again, the responsibility is on me to say, you know what, I could have handled that a lot better. That would be I could have handled that much better moment for me. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you guys for hanging out today. Thanks for being a part today. Thanks for being a part of the live stream. I'll be back here on Thursday for Stream Timber. Once again, hopefully back at 11:30, maybe 12. Maybe 12 works better for you. Leave me some comments down below. But feel free to leave me some comments down below as well, and tell me your instance where an outcome worked out to its best. How did it turn out for you? Have you had somebody in your group, a kid in your group that was the pastor's kid or whatever, and did it work out for you? Were there some things you could have done a lot better, right? Upon reflection, did you take some of these steps? What steps did you take? It'd be helpful probably for people who will watch the video and read the comments down below. So anyway, that is it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being a part today. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It tells me you like the video and want more of them. And I'll catch you guys on Thursday. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.